Okay, let's go into a little bit about sextortion, sexual exploitation, and grooming of minors.
Yeah.
And that kind of falls under the jurisdiction of ICAC, the Internet Crimes Against Children.
Yep.
What do they do? Who manages the task force? Where are they located?
Yeah, so the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force in Idaho is managed by the Idaho Attorney General's Office. The Idaho Attorney General's Office has several units, one of those units being ICAC. We get our cases from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, who people kind of forget about the National Center quite a bit because National Center runs mostly Amber Alerts. That's what they're mainly known for. But people forget that second part, exploited children. What NCMEC does, which is, again, another acronym that we love to use, what NCMEC does is they find images and videos of children that are being shared, produced, distributed online, and they report that based off their location, like IP addresses or whatever. Those are reported to NCMEC by service providers. Google, Facebook, Snapchat, all these providers have to report it somewhere, and they report it to NCMEC. NCMEC figures it out. They're like, this is in Idaho. We're going to send this to the Attorney General's office, which is out of Boise. Across the state, there's investigators like myself. I'm just a part-time investigator. I don't do it full-time. I still have regular cases I do here, and I help out a lot on patrol here and in investigations here. There are full-time investigators in the area as well too, and we manage the cases that come in for our areas basically. So if a case comes into Boise and they say it's in Sugar City, they're gonna be like, Teague works up there, here you go, man, here's your case. Get cracking on it. And we work together very well. We have such good team, and yeah, we just get after it, and it's a blast.
And so if I understand right, the NCMEC?
Yeah, NCMEC.
NCMEC, they get cyber tips?
So they generate the cyber tips.
They generate the cyber
They
tips.
generate the cyber tip.
So Google or Facebook or Snapchat sends NCMEC
the report
saying,
hey, there's something bad in this account, here you go.
And then NCMEC sends the ICAC the tip. Say, hey, what have you noticed in terms, and I'm going to put this graphic on video, but just verbally, what have you seen trend-wise in cyber tips? Yeah,
it's gone way up. Way up. So the way each cyber tip is individualized based off the report, and the cyber tips are in the 200+ million range right now.
For nationally,
yeah, worldwide even, right? We're at 200+ million cyber tips generated, and since I've started in internet crimes back in 2023, we ended that year, I think it was around like just over 2,000. Right, 2,000 cases. Last year, we ended that with 6,100 cases in Idaho. In Idaho. That's just Idaho only. So in 3 years, we went from 2,100 to over 6,000. And that is
each individual case.
New case that comes in.
That year.
Yep.
And what do those tips entail? Like, what could they be tips about?
Yeah, so those are tips about online enticement. So like inappropriate conversations between adults and children. So, companies have to flag those as well too, and inappropriate images and videos of children that are maybe being abused or stuff of that nature, and images or videos that are sent to underage children as well too. Those are all things that are flagged, and our report that we get from NCMEC will have tons of details for us. Sometimes they don't have a lot of details in there. Sometimes the only thing we might get is an email address or an IP address, and that's it, and some files. So it takes a lot of work on our end to figure out who's behind that. Sometimes we can figure it out pretty quick, and other times it takes a while to follow through.
What are some resources that ICAC provides the public, and where can folks go to find that?
Yep, so if you go to idahoicac.com, there's tons of resources on there. We do our news releases on there. There's also a subsection called Education. When you click into Education, it has tons of links in there for you to get back to the NCMEC's main website for like education purposes for parents, how to educate yourself as a parent, and education for children as well too. Safe practices, best practices, things like that.
Great. And NCMEC?
Same thing. Yep. If you go, so the ICAC website will have a direct link to NCMEC, and once you get in there, same thing. As soon as you go to education, KidSmart, NetSmart, all these education tools are available for parents for free. Videos on, if you don't know how to communicate to your kid about sextortion, maybe you can show your kid, hey, here you go, here's a sextortion video.
Speaking of that, let's kind of define some of these terms, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sextortion, sexual exploitation, and grooming.
Yeah.
Are they different? Are they the same?
So sextortion is basically, extortion, but for a sexual purpose. So that is where young men or young women have their images that are taken from them accidentally, on purpose, whatever, and that by a bad guy. That bad guy then turns around to the child and says, hey, I'm going to share these with people unless you pay me. That's your sextortion. Grooming behavior, something that we refer to as grooming, would be setting up a child to be a victim in the future, gaining that trust, gaining that care for that child. Some of these bad guys are pretty direct with kids, and some aren't. The ones that aren't are going to take their time, and they'll have long, drawn-out conversations with children before they get to a portion of exploitation, which is what we're going to finish on. Sexual exploitation is exploitative material of children that is produced.
Like child porn?
Yep, yeah, so child porn. Child porn's kind of like an older term. We refer it now to as CSAM. So CSAM, because that's what it really is, it's child sexual abuse material. It's abuse material of children in various different forms, videos, photos, whatever. It can take various different shapes, and it could be ranging from anything. And that's where we get to that exploitation. That's what that is. And they all have different purpose, where sextortion is a monetary gain, exploitation and grooming are for sexual gratification.
Right. Okay, well, let's kind of dig into this a little bit to help parents with perhaps some red flags, things that girls, how they might be extorted or groomed, boys, kind of the different scenarios, right? So let's take a girl. How might a girl be approached and asked, let's say a teenage girl, to give nude pictures and essentially be sextorted, right?
Exploited or whatever, right? So ways, it's all about manipulation, really, with kids. These adults will take their time to build manipulative behaviors, and a big one that we see in young women when it comes to being requested for nude images, things of that nature, is initially a girl will deny, like, no, I'm not going to do that, which is good on them. But we're emotional people, right? And these suspects will prey on that. And so they'll prey on emotions that the female child might have. And another big thing, a big tactic that's super manipulative with girls, is young women are trying to prove that they are mature women. They're in that stage of life where they're like, I'm trying to prove myself, I'm an adult woman. So a manipulative tactic that's seen a lot is suspects will tell girls, I thought you were more mature than that. You know, you seemed older for your age. That's why I'm talking to you. And they'll feed into that, and that's something that they'll eventually lose and end up sending an image because they're manipulated. And that tactic of, I believed you were more mature, which feeds right into, naturally, they're at that stage of life where they're trying to prove how mature they are. So that's a tactic that gets them quite a bit.
And for boys, it's a little bit different tactic, isn't it?
100%. Hormones are going crazy. They're seeking out things because they don't know what the changes are happening, which is why education amongst parents is so important with kids. And what happens with boys is they get sextorted a lot and ask for nude images a lot. And so these people will have fake profiles, fake images of girls. They'll send to the boys willingly, and the boys will immediately turn back and send images of themselves because they're in that hormonal stage where that's just unfortunately where they fall into that trap. These bad guys will turn right around and say, hey, I'm going to sextort you now, in a sense, right? I've got these images of you, and I'm going to share them with everybody. You know, send me this much money. Boys are sextorted way more than females are, and boys are trying to prove themselves as men, and men try to show that they're not very weak. So they'll fall into that trap of, I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want to be seen as weak, and that's a tactic that they use. Like, don't tell anybody. They'll see you as a weak man. And that's something it kicks the pride, especially of like a young boy, and they'll fall into that trap, and they'll end up losing lots of money when they can just ask us for help. And there's some tools out there that we'll talk about in a little bit to help them out.
Yeah. What are some red flags that parents and children need to be able to recognize to avoid either the sextortion or grooming and getting sexually exploited?
I would say a big one is immediate empathy towards like a child situation, which sounds kind of odd, but if you're talking online to an unknown person that you've never met in your life, male, female, you don't know who it is, it's just another character on some platform, and you share your life story of how hard your life is, and this person shows you immediate empathy of your situation, this person doesn't know you at all. Why are you chatting with this person? That's kind of weird. They're just trying to get you to gain trust very, very quickly. And then once they gain that trust of that child, male or female, doesn't matter, I would say the next thing that they build right into is isolation. You don't need to talk to your parents. You can talk to me. You don't need to talk to your friends. I'm here for you. Talk to me. So isolating them from the world, making the suspect their world, essentially. And that works, and it's sad that it does. But that's why people need to have that conversation with their kids of, we're here for you. You don't have to isolate us. Come talk to us.
Immediate empathy and isolation. Two big red flags.
100%.
If a child, heaven forbid, does send the nude pictures of him or herself to someone, what steps could parents take?
Yeah, I always tell parents, call law enforcement. We're here to help. We have the resources to help you guys out. Here in Madison County, right, you are the community that we're here to serve, and we teach our patrolmen, especially since we've gotten more involved with internet crimes, we teach our patrolmen how to respond to these calls, and they know exactly what information to gather so we can close accounts down and provide a resource which is ran by the National Center, which is called Take It Down.
Yeah, tell us a little about that.
Yeah, Take It Down is awesome. Take It Down is a place where you can submit images or videos, and it's not necessarily the image or the video, right? Yeah, it is. That's sent. But what we're looking for isn't the image or video itself. It's called a hash value. So a hash value is a digital fingerprint. Every photo and video ever taken has an independent hash value with it. And that's what we're looking for on Take It Down, is that hash value. That way, if your kid's image pops up somewhere else, we as law enforcement can get notified, like, hey, we know that's a kid. That kid's photo was taken and that's a child. We don't want that online. And that account's going to get closed down. It's going to get reported to law enforcement. So that's how we find out about kids' images, is when they're shared out there.
So a child puts, unfortunately, nude pictures out there.
Yep.
The parents and the child contact you. You get an image of that image.
Yep.
And you upload it to Take It Down. And Take It Down then identifies the hash value of that image. And then from there, how does law enforcement figure out where that image went?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different routes that image could go, right? And we never know where it's going to go.
Right.
But the thing that NCMEC will have is that hash value. So now it provides all these hash values to the service providers of, like we talked about earlier, all these companies, their algorithms that are going through accounts are looking for certain hash values, known or unknown. And that would be a known hash value of a child that submitted their information. So now we know it's a kid, and that's how a cyber tip's reported.